Today I'm reviewing a meat grinder made by Meat? I guess that's the name of the company. Meet your maker. I like that. This is the 500 watt unit, but don't let the size fool you. This meat grinder definitely gets the job done. I recently bought this meat grinder, so I decided to give it a mini review. So let's do an unboxing. First thing we'll see are the instructions, which we'll look at later. All the package contents were boxed in nicely. Here's the housing unit, followed by our meat tray. The head feels very sturdy. The head comes in fully assembled with the auger, front rig nut, the blade, along with the 4.5mm grinding plate. As per the manufacturer's advice, we need to disassemble and thoroughly clean all the parts before using. I removed the top from the stomper, and inside you have 3 funnels. You also get a 10mm grinding plate along with the stuffing plate. They feel very heavy duty. The instruction manual is very well laid out. This meat grinder is super easy to assemble, but you'll definitely want to take a look at the instructions. In order to test out the unit, I got this 2¼ pound chuck roast that I'll be cutting up into small cubes. It is recommended that you cut them into 1-inch cubes, but as you can clearly see, I made them a little bit bigger. Should you get a meat grinder? Well, if you're like me and want to make some kick-ass hamburger blends, maybe make some sausages from time to time, then I highly recommend you get a meat grinder. So far, this unit has been perfect for me. Once I finish cutting up my cubes, I'll be putting the cubes inside a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer about 30 or 40 minutes. Today, I'll be double grinding. I'll be using the 4.5mm plate and the 10mm plate. Here we have the auger. One thing I want to quickly point out is when you place in the auger, you might need to turn it to properly align with the drive shaft of the motor. The second thing I want to point out is when placing in your blade, make sure the flat side of the blade is facing outwards. Also pay attention to this notch here. You'll need to align this notch with the grinding plate. Okay, let's go through with the assembly process. First, the head attaches to the motor. Next, we'll install the auger. Make sure to turn it if you need to. Make sure to turn your knob clockwise to lock the head into place. Remember, the flat end of the blade is facing forward. Align your notch on the grinding plate. Then lock in your front rig nut. Pop in our meat tray. Now let's power it on. Please be sure to use the plunger that's been provided for you. We don't want to lose any fingers here. Remember, I'm using the 10mm plate here for a very coarse grind. Now I don't think you'll need to double grind like I'm about to do here. And I definitely used the 4.5mm grinder before, single grind, and it worked out nicely. But I decided to do things a little differently here, so I went ahead with the double grind. This grinder is not struggling at all. The first grind is complete. As you can tell, it's very coarse. I'm going to go ahead and remove the 10mm plate. One thing to note here is that there's not a lot of unground meat left in the auger, which is really good news. I'm going to go ahead and swap out the plate, replacing the 10mm plate with the 4.5mm. As you can see, I decided to use a bowl here instead. I was getting a lot of spillage. Okay, it's time to power it back up. It doesn't take very long before we notice that the double grind, the meat looks a lot smoother. This is a much smoother grind. Now, why this unit? Well, when I was shopping for a meat grinder, I knew that my needs were going to be very basic. I knew ahead of time I wasn't going to process a large amount of meat. I needed for the occasional hamburger grind for some burgers, to make some sausages, and maybe grind some meat for my dog. Basically, I'll pick up a couple of pounds of meat whenever it's on sale, grind it, vacuum seal it, put it in the freezer, and this way I'll have fresh ground meat whenever I need it. Now, if you want to start up a business, or if you're a hunter and you're going to process a large amount of meat, then I highly suggest you look up other more expensive units. You get more horsepower, you'll be able to process meat a lot quicker. I know that these high-powered units can be expensive, but trust me, if you know for sure that you're going to be processing a lot of meat, do not waste your money on low-powered units like this one, because you're going to outgrow it pretty quickly and you're going to end up spending more money in the long run. Now that it's done, let's build up some burger patties. I'm going to get a little exact here, and I'm busting out the kitchen scale. Let's do a quick reset. I'm going to build out 5-ounce patties. I end up measuring out about 7 of these. lay down some parchment paper. Again, I'm getting a little bit more exact. Lay down my ring, and then form them out. Remember to shape the meat, but don't pack it in too tightly. But don't leave them too loose where they will fall apart. 1 down, 6 more to go. I got my 7 patties here. 6 of these patties I'm going to vacuum seal and freeze for a future video. The 7th I'm going to cook right now. I'm keeping things very simple. A little Lorry seasoned salt and some fresh ground pepper. Let's do a quick flip. Wow, look at that crust. Let's add more seasoned salt and a little bit more pepper. One more flip and we're good. Keeping this burger very simple. Using brioche buns, putting some mayo, adding mustard, ketchup, and placing in our patty. Let's add some pickles and just a little bit more ketchup. It's very simple, but I'm sure it's delicious. Let's take a bite. I'm not going to exaggerate here, but this is by far the best homemade burger I've ever made. The meat is just so flavorful. Simply put, I'm never going to buy ground meat from the supermarket if I can avoid it.